This is the Claim Your Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Maisie. If you're tired of drifting and you're ready to start living intentionally according to your values, you're in the right place, my friend. We're here to help you lead with excellence at home, at work, and in your community so you can live with significance. Let's bridge the gap between who you are today and who you are called to be. Now is the time for you to claim your day. Hello, my friend, and welcome to episode 89, the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here and joining in. Today, we're talking about going from reactive to intentional. Look, if you've been there, you're working harder than ever, but by the end of the day, you're exhausted, and yet you don't feel like you actually won. Your calendar is full of good things, but you're missing the best things. You're missing those things that really resonate, aligned with your core values. Maybe, not being present at the dinner table, even if you're physically there, or moving the needle on your biggest goals and that vision that you have for your life. So, John Maxwell talks about this, how activity, busyness is not necessarily accomplishment or progress. We often mistake, the being busy for being truly effective. And the truth is that if you don't have a filter for your yeses, if you don't filter things for your calendar, then your schedule, it's not really yours. It belongs to whoever is asking for your time. And if you're like most people, then there's a lot of people that are asking for your time, attention, and energy. If you don't watch it, your schedule, your calendar is going to be theirs. So today we're opening up a brand new series. This new series is called the Decision Filter. So we're gonna stop drifting by looking at the hidden cost of your commitments. Because every time you say yes, you're actually saying no to something. You might be saying yes out of guilt, a habit. You don't want to say no. You want to be helpful. You want to be caring. You want to add value, so you say yes. But then you accidentally, unintentionally, are saying no to other things. The no's might be going towards your purpose, your values, your true, deep commitments that are down in your core, the things that are most important to you. You might be saying no to those things by saying yes in these other areas. And that's what we're going to get into in this series and in today's episode. So let's dive right into the three main points for this episode on how we're going to stop being reactive and how we're going to become more intentional. So the first point, the yes, when you say yes, it's not really a gift you're giving to somebody else. It's really a trade. It's really a trade. And it's not just, you can't just say yes because you're going to say no. So what's this mean? Imagine this just for a second, because your time and your energy, they're finite, they're not infinite. So imagine that if a stranger, someone on the street, asks you for $20, and so you just give him your whole wallet. Well, that sounds a little absurd, but yet at the same time, we hand over our Tuesday nights, our Saturday mornings, we hand over these chunks of time in our calendar for anyone that asks for a quick favor. As I said, we want to be helpful. We want to add value. So we just give them what they ask for. Say yes. There's really an opportunity cost here. See, in leadership, every single choice is a trade-off. Now you might know this when you're officially leading a team or in a position of leadership or authority. You might see this, but this also applies to our lives. When we're leading our lives, every choice that we make is really a trade-off. And a yes to this middle tier project or something that is okay, it's good. A yes to that. Or think about this. A yes at work, that extra thing, as extra shift or assignment, really might be dictating a no to that worthwhile climb for what's truly most important to you. So you're not just finding time in that calendar to do it. You're trading your life for what's on that calendar. Look, and I'm not saying you can't say yes to things or not to add value or not to go above and beyond. 100% no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's always an opportunity cost. Your time and energy are finite. So we have to acknowledge that when we say yes, it's actually a trade. It's actually a trade that we're making, and to make sure that we're making those trades intentionally for what is most important. So that's the first point. Your yes is a trade. It's a trade, not just a gift. The second point is we want to make sure that we're filtering these decisions in the right way. Well, in John Maxwell, he's got these 3 R's for prioritization, and it's a perfect time to share them with you. Because if we want to stop the overwhelm, we need a filter. And a great filter is just to ask these 3 questions before you make a commitment. What must I do? Is this a requirement? The first one is just requirement. What must I do? And if it's something that you must do and nobody else can do it, well, then you might need to do it. There's being a parent, falls into this, or casting that vision. If you're leading, you need to be the one to cast that vision. What are the things that only you can do? Because there's going to be things that only you can do. So what are the things that only you can do? So that's the first one, the requirement. The second question for the 3 R's is the return. What gives you a greatest return on your effort? This is highly related to your strengths. Can you lean into your strengths more? This is where you're going to get your greatest return on the effort that you put in, is when you're living and you're acting and you're working within your strengths. So what's that greatest return? What's the requirement? What's the return? And what's the reward? What brings your greatest alignment with your values? What's core to your heart that is most important to you? If it's a requirement, gives you the good return and the good reward, well, then you probably should be doing it. And you should be prioritizing by those 3 things. Yeah, all right. So some things that might not be related to your strength, and it might not be dead in line with your core values. But if it's just a requirement, then you might just need to do it. Or, hey, it's not a requirement and it's not my area of strengths, but this is something that is absolutely most important to me in my life and my values, then you got to prioritize those things. What's the requirement? What's the return? And what's going to give you that reward? Think about that being a filter. And then what's really great is that if it's something that aligns with one of those 3 things and you don't feel like doing it, identifying why you're saying yes to it can actually add value to the work that you're doing and make it a whole lot easier. That's the other benefit of having a filter. A filter is not just to say no to more things, but it can add value and meaning when you say yes, so that it's easier to commit, lean into it, and do it full, like to your best ability with a full heart. Because see, good is actually the enemy of the best. We don't really struggle. Or if you're like most people, you don't struggle with saying no to bad things. When it's something that's bad, it's morally wrong. It's like you're not struggling to say no. Of course, you're going to say no to that stuff. That's not a problem. Where the big struggle is saying no to the good things because they aren't the best things for our current season. That's a lot harder to say no to good things when because we're going to be intentional, so we can say yes to the best things. And it might be different. It's going to change from season to season, where you're at in your life, all the other things that are going on. Yeah, that's going to change some. But this is what's really hard. It's really hard to say no to the good things. But we got to say no to the good things so that we can say yes to the best things for our lives according to your values and where you're at. That's where these filters will help you with. As well as this last point, it's all about the strategic pause. The strategic pause. Think about this. It's a trap to say when we are in that moment, we have someone ask us for something, and we'll say yes. Sometimes we say yes because we want to avoid the tension of saying no. But it's tough to really think through everything and to make that judgment call, especially when you're making a commitment for your calendar and your time. You can't just say yes to everything and be respectful of your calendar and your time, and to live out your core values, to honor what's best, and to use a decision filter. You can't do all these things if you're just like reacting and saying yes to things so fast. I said, and one of the temptations just to say yes is to avoid that tension of saying no. So what can you do? What can you do? Well, you can take a strategic pause. And I want to introduce you to just a time buffer. That's all it is. It might be 24 hours. 24 hours is great. Like if you take 24 hours to make a decision, that's awesome. That might be a little bit of a luxury though. But you can go something just really as simple like this. That sounds like a great opportunity. Let me check my calendar and what we have going on, and I'll get back to you. And you can tell me you get back to them tomorrow. Or hey, let me get back to you in a little bit. I'm gonna check with my calendar, check with my family, make sure I got to know what's going on. The good thing is nowadays everybody does have demands for their time, attention, and energy, and things are getting thrown on everybody's calendar. So you're not really expected to memorize your calendar and know every single thing that's going on at every single place. So the need to check is not really an issue at all. But what this does is it gives you a little bit of space to think. It allows you to run things through a filter, look at your calendar, make sure you're honoring what's most important, and then add value, help people out where you can. But here's a huge part of this too. There's a small little strategic pause. Is you move from being the thermometer, just reacting, to being the thermostat and setting the tone. I've done an old podcast episode on that too. And this is so big. If we're going to be intentional, if we're going to stop drifting, and definitely if we're going to lead a life of significance, we have to shift from being the thermometer to the thermostat. We're going to stop reacting, and we're going to start being intentional and setting that tone. That's how we're going to do it. If you need a little bit of a buffer, so that way you can think through things, or even contemplate how you're going to say no, or maybe you're going to do one of those where you're thankful for the opportunity. You let them know that you can't do it. You're going to say no, and then you give them another suggestion of maybe who can help or where they can get some assistance. You can still be helpful, polite, respectful, professional in that response without having to agree to everything. So use that strategic pause. Use the Maxwell filter of the 3 R's of prioritization, and fully know that your yeses aren't just a gift that you can give out. It's actually a trade, and it's trading for what's on your calendar, which is your life. Acknowledge that trade. So what can you do with this? Well, I encourage you in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, look at your to-do list. Look at your to-do list and run it through the 3 R's. What's the requirement? What's the reward? And and what's the requirement? What's the reward? And what's the return? Run it through those 3 R's. Is this something that you have to do and no one else can do? Is it something that's going to give you a good return because it leans into your strengths? And is there a reward? Is it aligned with your values? Run it through the 3 R's. That's what you're going to do in the next few days, is to look at your to-do list and run it through the 3 R's of requirement, return, and reward. That's it. And it's going to help you to really see where you can make those decisions that are more aligned with what is best for your life and what's most important to you. Also, in the next 24 hours, I want you to practice the pause. When somebody asks you something, this time, for your time, something to do this week, something to help out with, a different project to take on, whatever it is, practice the pause. All you had to do is, acknowledge the good opportunity. Just tell them you're going to check your calendar, see what's going on with the families and your prior commitments, and that you'll get back to them. Just practice the pause. Something big, something small, it doesn't matter. The more you practice things, the easier it's going to be. So those are your 2 action steps, if you will, for this episode. Is use the decision filter of the 3 R's, requirement, return, and reward, and practice the strategic pause and get back to somebody with a decision without having to make just that reactive answer in the moment. Sound good? Excellent. We'll use those things, make some progress, go from reactive to intentional. That way you can guide your life where you want it to go according to your values and lead that life of significance and stop drifting. All right. Look, if you like this episode, make sure you subscribe. You can share it with somebody. That would be a huge help. There's also subscribe because you don't want to miss any in the rest of this decision filter series. As always, there's more tools and resources, podcast episodes, and the like at nickmazy.com. You can get the intentional choice guide there. It'll help you with really solidifying, getting crystal clear on your top values, so that way you can make these decisions aligned with your values. And also, as you've heard me mention multiple times, I'm really looking at developing a community of people dead set on going from drifting to being intentional and living with significance according to each one's values. And I want you to participate. If these episodes resonate with you, then you would be a great fit, and I'd love to have you in the community. You can go to nickmazy.com/life leaders. That's what I'm looking at calling it, life leaders, where we're going to work together and lead our lives. So go to nickmazy.com/life leaders. You'll have some information there, as well as a place to enter your email address so I can get you updated on it. The doors aren't open right now, so there's nothing to join right now, but I want to talk with you and see if it's a fit and how we can work together to design this. Like, I've got a lot of great ideas, but I haven't finalized it yet because I want to make sure it's adding the most value to you. So go to nickmazy.com/life leaders. You get a lot more information. We can chat back and forth and see if we can make this so that it is the best fit and add the most value to you. Because that is one of my values, is to help and have an impact while I'm growing myself. I want to make sure that I'm providing that, having an impact on people so they can also live with intentionality, which is something that's really important to me. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the very end. Make sure you catch the rest of the decision filter series, because we're going to keep going on different ways that we can go from really being reactive to being more intentional and all about the decisions that we're making. All right. Well, once again, thank you for listening. Take care, and I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode.